Barakatay Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The World is Being Fenced In. And pretty much, I was been searching for a lesson to go into, and nothing was really coming. I was listening to the Bible, reading, I was watching some videos, get some inspiration, and I came across this article, and the article gave me an idea, to just hit the article and go through a couple of precepts. I actually just had one precept in mind, and to go into, based off of the the article itself. And pretty much as I was doing that, I ran across this lesson here that the brother from Philadelphia was doing. It's called Definitive Lesson Ivy Leaf Dionysius Greek English Bible. So I guess he was reading this is the Septuagint. He was reading the Third Maccabees about the ivy leaf, and he was going into some of the Greek words, and the Greek words that he was going through, one of them lined up with the Karax in the book of Revelation 13:16 on down. And as he was reading some of the definitions, one of the definitions he read was to fence off. So that kind of gave me the title for the lesson based off of, the article, based off of the video he did, and it all came together in that fashion. So now what I did was I looked up the word fenced in, meaning restrict or confine someone, as in he wanted to take on more assignments but was fenced in by his contract. All right, so we're dealing with restrict or confine someone. And this is why I showed you this picture at the beginning, which is a still from the movie Escape from New York. And in the movie Escape from New York, the island of Manhattan was pretty much fenced off. As you see here, it has a containment wall. So there was a wall that went all the way around it, to fence off the Manhattan Island, and they called it a prison. But pretty much this wall that they had was an actual physical wall, but the wall that they're going to have around the world is going to be an invisible wall based off of the whole MOTB, which is the CHIP. And pretty much what we are witnessing right now is a total demolition of laws, in different countries worldwide that are protecting any of the citizens, against, tyrannic governments. And all of these laws being put into place are all being predicated upon by different crises that are happening around the world, whether so-called nature, which we know is the Most High, or whether it's man-made, which we still know is the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And that's pretty much what the article is about. It's from Natural News. It's called A State of Never-Ending Crisis. The government is fomenting mass hysteria. This is dated Sunday, April 2nd, 2023. The hopeful year of all the prophecies of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai being fulfilled. This is from yesterday. Now, usually when I, go into articles, sometimes I might read the first couple of paragraphs, or sometimes the heading is so powerful that I just deal with the heading. But I ended up reading this whole article You know, it's not very long, but I ended up reading this whole article, and it just kind of, like drew me in, to go into read the whole thing. And there was one little part that I highlighted, in there that pretty much makes the lesson more impactful, because it's the even though we know it's the Lord Yahweh Bashem Al Shai doing it, it's the international banking families who own and control the world lock, stock, and barrel that are pushing this agenda of constant distraction. So all of these different crises that we see going on, especially these train derailments that are causing massive pollution, massive radioactive pollution, and just different pollutions, making lands in those areas and waters poison. And this is one of the tenets, I believe, of the 15 cities, is that they'll be able to implement a 15 city somewhere where they deem it to be uninhabitable by reason of pollution or whatever the case may be. So that gives them, the go ahead to do it. And I forget where I read it at or heard it from, but this is like one of the pretenses. So let's read some of this article. Only one precept came to mind. If something else comes to mind, I'll go through it, Lord's will. But a state of never-ending crisis. The government is fomenting mass hysteria. Natural news. We have become guinea pigs in a ruthlessly calculated, carefully orchestrated, chillingly cold-blooded experiment in how to control a population and advance a political agenda without much opposition from the citizenry. Right, because the citizens are not given the right tools, first and foremost, and the right atmosphere to be able to see what's happening in the government, the real issues behind the scenes, so that they can be up in arms and protest against the government for what they're doing. Instead, they're being constantly bombarded by fear, different crises, and different bullshit news that's going on around the world to keep their minds occupied. Then you have the bread and circuses part of it that's also aiding in this more dumbing down of the American public as they already are. Because America pretty much is America is the capital of the world. This is the capital of Babylon and the capital of the world. It says, and it gives you who did the article. This is the mind control in its most sinister form. With alarming regularity, the nation is being subjected to a spate of violence that terrorizes the public, destabilizes the country, and gives the government greater justification to crack down, lock down, and institute even more authoritarian policies for the so-called sake of national security without many objections from the citizenry. Now, we use this scripture in the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter, right, to make a point, because the things that were written aforetime were written for our learning. But this particular chapter here is dealing with the Medo Persians, and it's dealing with the Greeks, and specifically they're at a point dealing with the little horn, is dealing with Antiochus Epiphanes. So when we read Daniel 8:25, we have to make mention of that, because that's how we qualify it. But there is something here that points to something that they're doing now that is bringing that same energy, right? And that's Daniel 8:24. It says, "And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper, and practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people." This was Antiochus Epiphanes. But this same spirit is out here now. That's the anti-Messiah spirit that is out to destroy the Israelites, the true Israelites. Now I was watching Elder Yashwamba's video earlier, and he brought out this precept, which I've heard before, we've hit before, but, it's not one of those scriptures that are brought up a lot, but in these times, it's really, impactful, because, it makes the point of what these devils are actually doing. And that's in the book of Isaiah 29. I believe it was 29. Let's see if I could find it. Right here, 29:21. That make an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just from a thing of naught. And this is what the international banking families that run the world are doing through their manipulation and control of the money system. They're able to control the direction that these different legislations and the direction of the world is going in. Because if you look at governments around the world are pretty much run by the big businesses. Big business runs government. This is why Maya Angelou said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes the laws. Because he that controls the money controls the laws. As they say, bullshit, money talks, bullshit walks. You know, so they're the ones that are manipulating these things. And if anyone goes against their words, goes against their agenda, they have justification by the law, speaking as the dragon, to bring judgment against them. You see? So going back to Daniel 8:25, and through his policy, this is going back to Antiochus Epiphanes, but we're using it today just to make a point because they're running the same legislative body that they were back then. Remember, you had the Athenian lawgiver Draco, you know? This was during the Greek Empire. It happened during the Roman Empire. It's happening now during the revival of the Roman Empire, which is America. And through his policy, also he shall cause what? Craft to prosper. And this is what they're using. They're using the legislation because they control the money, they control the politicians. They're using the legislation to pass their agenda unbeknownst to the public. And what are they feeding the public with? They're feeding the public with distractions, amusement, bread and circuses, things that take their mind off of the actual, the actual hard line, situation that are going on, and keeping them in a docile state. So, and through his policy, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Why? Because they have it in the power of their hand to do it. Pursuant to Micah 2, they have that godlike power to do it. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And the word power here, when you go back to the Hebrew, is the word Allah, which means godlike power. So they have that godlike power. Why? Because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So that's why he's able to make it prosper through the policies, because it is in the power of his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hands yet, because Antiochus Epiphanes eventually was eaten by worms, a plague from the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. He tried to fight against the Lord, then he tried to repent, but the Lord did not give him repentance. He brought hell upon that devil, and rightly so. So let's look up the word policy, and then we'll go back to the article. The word there is shakal. Prudence, insight, understanding, right? So it's intelligence that they have on the inside. That's why it says that their heart is deep. They don't let everybody know their plans, even though there's some from within that expose it, but they don't just let anyone know about their plans. They prefer secrecy to openness, because by secrecy, by the time they get into, the position, where people find out about it, it's too late, because, it's already in motion. Prudence, good sense, insight, understanding, cunning, craft in the bad sense. And right here it says what? Intelligence. To have the intel, to have the insight of what's really going on. But to the masses of the people, as it says here in this article, they make it seem like a benevolent thing, like they're really helping people. But the helping people that they're doing is really helping their agenda forward with the pretense of helping the people. So it says, and gives the government greater justification to crack down, lock down, and institute even more authoritarian policies for the so-called sake of national security without many objections from the citizenry, right? Because they're distracted. This is all part of the deep state's master plan. Ask yourself, why are we being bombarded with crisis, distractions, fake news, and reality TV politics? Yes, he said reality TV politics. Because politics or politicians and that whole spiel that's going on, the Trumps against the Bidens and the Bidens against the Hillary Clintons and this, and the Kamala Harris and all of that is nothing more than reality TV. And this is what the people that wrote this article are painting it in that narrative, and that keeps the people intrigued. Then the distractions, the bread and circuses, then the crises and the different things happening, whether it's the C19er and all of that stuff. It's all part of the fear tactics and the distractions to get into place their agenda. But they're only going to go so far with their agenda, as the Lord says. We're being conditioned like lab mice to subsist on a steady diet of bread and circus politics and endless spate of crisis. Right, because they know that in order to control the world, they have to manipulate the minds of the people. It says, caught up in this crisis of the now, the average person has a hard time keeping up with and remembering all of the events, manufactured or otherwise. And you see that a lot of things are happening, which occur like clockwork in order to keep us distracted, deluded, amused, and insulated from reality. All the while, the government continues to amass more power and authority over the citizenry. And that's what it's all about. It's all about raw, naked power. It says, inside joke, but it's the truth. But when we're being bombarded with wall-to-wall news coverage and news cycles that change every few days, it's difficult to stay focused on one thing, namely holding the government accountable to abiding by the rule of law. And the powers that be understand this. Yet, as John Lennon reminds us, nothing is real, especially not in the world of politics. All right? It says, in other words, it's all fake, an example manufactured, an example manipulated to distort reality. Much like the fabricated universe in Peter Weir's 1998 film, The Truman Show, which I gotta watch this movie because I've heard a lot about it. That there's a lot of insight to what's going on today, within that show, but I've never watched it myself. I was watching some snippets of it earlier, and I kind of understand where they're going with it, but I haven't watched it. So it says, in which a man's life is the basis of an elaborately staged television show aimed at selling products and procuring ratings. And that's what it is. This is all about advertising. So what they're doing is they're pretty much advertising the New World Order, but what they're doing is they're distracting people. Okay, the brother said The Truman Show is incredibly good. All right, everyone needs to watch it. Lord's will, I'm going to check it out. The political scene in the United States has devolved over the years into a carefully calibrated exercise in how to manipulate, polarize, propagandize, and control a population. It's all about control. And I'm not talking about Janet Jackson, but it's all about control. This is the magic of the reality TV programming that passes for politics today. And that's exactly what it is. When you see Donald Trumps and your Bidens and your different presidents and president-elects or different, nominees going at each other's throat, it's all propaganda. It's all a smoke and mirror show. It's all reality TV. Oh, Barakateh, how about Shemal Shah? The brother said wow, that's the spirit was just thinking about that movie, listening to the spirit work on you, Apostle. Wow. Hey, Barakateh, how about Shemal Shah? It says, as long as we are distracted, entertained, occasionally outraged, always polarized by largely uninvolved, and content to remain in the viewer's seat, will never manage to present a unified front against tyranny or government corruption and ineptitude in any form. And this is the views of these individuals because they're looking to better their situation here in America and around the world. But we know that in order for the kingdom to come, this place has to go down for the kingdom to be established so that righteousness can rule once again on the earth. So see, this is where we differ in opinions, and we differ based off of what the scriptures say. These people are not looking at it from the perspective of the scriptures. They're looking at it from the perspective of, being free, being self-sustained, and the only time they use government is when their rights are being infringed and the government can help in that situation. Other than that, they want to be self-sufficient, so they don't have the hope of the scriptures. It says the more that is beamed at us, the more inclined we are to settle back into our comfy recliners and become passive viewers rather than active participants as unsettling, frightening events unfold. Reality and fiction merge as everything around us becomes entertainment fodder. We don't even have to change the channel when the subject matter becomes too monotonous. That's taken care of by the taken care of for us by the programmers, the corporate media. So you could see how, you brothers could see how this article kind of draws you in. It's like you say, okay, I'm gonna jump, because I'm keep wanting to jump, to the main point, but it like draws you in. It says living is easy with eyes closed, says Lenin. And that's exactly what reality TV that masquerades as American politics programs the citizenry to do. Navigate the world with their eyes shut, eyes wide shut. As long as we're viewers, we'll never be doers. Excuse me, and that's heavy because that's scriptural. Not the hearers, but the doers. He got it in the form of viewers, but the scriptures say not the listeners or the hearers of the word, but the doers of the word are justified. Studies suggest that the more reality TV people watch, and I would pose it that it's all reality TV, entertainment news included, the more difficult it becomes to distinguish between what is real and what is carefully crafted farce. Let me see. The barrier on Netflix is spot on to what you're speaking on, Apostle. I might have seen that, but I don't know for sure. I'm going to have to check that out. Got a lot on the plate. Got to check out. We the people are watching a lot of TV. On average, Americans spend 5 hours a day watching television. By the time we reach age 65, we're watching more than 50 hours of television a week. And that number increases as we get older, and reality TV programming consistently captures the largest percentage of TV watchers every season by an almost 2-to-1 ratio. And this is why when, the Federal Reserve was set up into place in 1913, and the CFR was established, I believe, in 1921, if I'm not mistaken. Once they were set up, the very first thing they did was buy all forms of media, all media outlets, whether it's radio, whether it was newspapers, magazines, whatever it was that had any influence on the public, they bought it. Why? To push their agenda through. It says this doesn't bode well for a citizenry able to sift through masterfully produced propaganda in order to think critically about the issues of the day, whether it's fake news peddled by government agencies or foreign entities. This holds true whether the reality program is about the antics of celebrities in the White House, in the boardroom, or in the bedroom. And that's why you see all this bullshit, there's these scandals about different celebrities and all that. The scandals about presidents like Donald Trump about to be arrested, this, that, and the other, and this bullshit and that bullshit. That's all a part of the fodder, The ramifications for the future of civic engagement, political discourse, and self-government are incredibly depressing and demoralizing. Ultimately, the reality shows, the entertainment news, the surveillance society, the militarized police, and the political spectacles have one common objective: to keep us divided, distracted, imprisoned, and incapable of taking an active role in the business of self-government. Why? Because they want everything to be a smooth transition into the reset. Look behind the political spectacles, the reality TV theatrics, and the sleight of hand distractions and diversions, and the stomach-churning, nail-biting drama, and you will find there is a method to the madness. How do you change the way people think? You start by changing the words they use. And this is why you got something called PC, or politically correct, to where even when you do videos, you can't even say certain words or they'll clip your video. That's all a manipulation of words. It says in totalitarian regimes, aka police states, where conformity and compliance are enforced at the end of a loaded gun, the government dictates what words can and cannot be used. See? This is why you can't say certain things or they'll clip your video. So it's already here. The New World Order is really already here. It's just they're putting the last final nails in the coffin, so to speak. But they're only going to get so far. In countries where the police state hides behind a benevolent mask and disguises itself as tolerance, the citizens censor themselves, see? That's why, you can't say certain words, so the citizens have to, I can't say that, because if I say that, then they're going to deal with me on this, or they're going to hit me with a fine, or, that whole demolition man thing. It says the citizens censor themselves, policing their words and thoughts to conform to the dictates of the mass mind. And this is what's happening. Everybody's being directed towards this New World Order agenda. Now, this is the point here. We read that part. Even when the motives behind this rigidity, calibrated reorientation of societal language appear well-intentioned, right? Because they're saying, well, the reason why we're doing it is because of this, because of that, so everybody can have a fair shake. And then if you don't know any better, you're thinking, okay, cool, this seems to be good. But it ain't. It's all about taking away, from the rights and the freedoms of the people, especially the Israelites. I'm going to read a couple of these precepts. Ecclesiastes 14:5, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods, right? Isaiah 10:1, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. And that's pretty much what it is, because it's grievousness. Because if you believe that America is going to be destroyed, they're making it to the point where you can't express that opinion. If you believe that the Most High created male and female, they're making it hard for you to be able to speak about these things without being hit with a fine, without being hit with jail time, without having your videos clipped. Like Elder Yahshua was going into his lesson, he pretty much brought out how you have the transmission, movement are committing crimes against the Christians by killing them, but it's the Christians that are the bad guys. And that pretty much is just like mind-blowing, because you have people out there that are actually, riding with that, and actually agreeing with that. The brother said the Fed is rolling out digital currency bank to bank this week. Hey, there we go. It's moving. And this, perfect time. In 2 Corinthians 2:11, least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. That's correct. And these are all part of his devices. So it says, even when the motives behind his rigidly calibrated reorientation of societal language appear well intentioned, discouraging racism, condemning violence, denouncing discrimination and hatred, inevitably the end result is the same. Intolerance, listen good, intolerance, indoctrination, infantilism, the chilling of free speech, and the demonizing of viewpoints that run counter to the cultural elite. And this is why you can't speak about the small little hats, you know. And this one, it was attributed to this so-called white supremacist. You know, they say Voltaire or some other guy said it, but it was really this so-called white supremacist, I forget his name, that said, you want to find out who controls everything, find out who you can't speak against, just merely roughly paraphrasing. And that's who was, that's really who said it, you know. Yeah, my brother said evil E too big to fail mantra. So that's pretty much what it is. To at the end result is the same: intolerance, indoctrination, infantilism, the chilling of free speech, and the demonizing of viewpoints that have run contrary to the cultural elite. Why? Because they are the ones running things behind the scenes. The Lord gave it to them. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Labeling something as fake news is a masterful way of dismissing truth that may run counter to the ruling power's own narrative. As George Orwell recognized, in times of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act, which this was in the movie. I believe it was also in the book, if I'm not mistaken, but it wasn't George Orwell that came up with it. Pretty much it was somebody else, but they couldn't track down the actual person that said it. But it was brought up by George Orwell, and it was brought up in the movie 1984, which was based off of that. So it goes on to say, a populace that cannot think for themselves is a populace that is with its backs to the walls, mute in the face of elected officials who refuse to represent us, helpless in the face of police brutality, powerless in the face of militarized tactics and technology that treat us like enemy combatants on a battlefield. And this is why they've gotten people used to those terms like enemy combatant, homegrown terrorism, and things of that nature. Because that is the whole ordeal, is the ones that don't comply, demonize them. And naked in the face of government surveillance that sees and hears all. It says, as I made clear in my book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People, and in the fictional counterpart, the Eric Blair Diaries, it's time to change the channel, tune out of the reality TV show, and push back against the real menace of the police state. And see, I pretty much read the whole thing, except for this part right here. Because it draws you in, So pretty much, this is what they're pushing. But see, they're pushing the narrative of, making a change by pushing against or pushing back. But we know that the sooner they bring it, the sooner the Lord will destroy them and set up the true kingdom on the planet Earth. And I'm gonna leave you with this precept and read a couple of verses here. I'm sorry, I don't know. I tend to do that. Psalms 10, I'll read a couple of verses. 10 and 1, why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? Right, because the times of Jacob's trouble are coming. And it will get very bad out here. And Yahweh Shem El Shai brought a thumb to all the sincere Akim, if any apostles, elders, bishops, sincere brothers, are watching, shalom to you and shalom to the sisters, the sincere ones, the very few that are still around. It says, the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined, right? Because when they do this, they're going to fall into that same pit that they dig. It says, for the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. This is why they want, that's why there's such an attack pretty much on the scriptures And they're using these different narratives of the transmission, community against the Christians because, like Elder Yashawamba was saying, which is true, is they're pretty much attacking the Bible. And that's what they've been doing for years, because the people that are running the governments know that they're not the people of the Most High. That's why sometimes they'll claim to be Israelites, but then sometimes they'll claim to be Edomites, which is the truth. They are the Edomites. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. But to the people, it sounds like sweet words, like it says in Psalms 55. Let's get that real quick. Psalms 55 and 21. I started at 19. The Most High shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Salah, because they have no changes, therefore they fear not the Most High. Right, because they're prospering. This is why that devil Harari would have the nerve. He's doing good. He's a mole. He's a small hat mole doing good. And he has no fear of the Most High. That's why he said we can piss off God as much as we want because now we have the technology to do this, to do that. We don't need him anymore. This is the mind of these devils. But you still have individual clowns, even among the Israelites that are trying to save these goddamn devils. We're the ones that need the saving, not them. They don't give a shit. They got an agenda. They got their marching orders from the Most High, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. That's why Scripture say in Ezekiel 13 to save alive the souls that should not die, and and to pretty much to make sad the souls that should not be sad, or something along those lines. That's you ninjas out there. He hath put forth his hand, and you're the worst kind, man. You're the worst kind. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant, right? Because he's promising everybody this, that, and the other, but really they ain't meaning to keep that. That's just deception to get the people to comply with his program, and then once he get him where he wants him, he's gonna lay the rat trap on him. And that's coming in the form of this legislation. That's coming in the form of in the direction that the finance is going. The banking is going. To make everything digital. So the only way you can access it is through a computer, through your phone, or whatever the case may be, which is going to be that CHIP. These 15-minute cities, these smart cities, all designed pretty much to keep everyone fenced in to that, or confined to those limits. And if you go above the limits, they shut you down, or they kick you out, or they put you to death. The words of his this is the point. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And that's how he gets Jake. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. But they're using it in a benevolent way, as we read in the article. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor, which are the Israelites. And this is what he's doing. And how is he doing this? By all of the traps he's setting in place for this new world order, this agenda that he has. This vision of the future that they have, to where their evil ass will be ruling and everybody else will be subjected to them, whoever's left alive on the earth. But they don't know that the Lord is going to slap the joystick, or slap the remote control out of his hand, as Elder Yashawamba said. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. And that's pretty much the Pied Piper, Funland, and Pinocchio, and pretty much the bread and circuses that are keeping the people preoccupied, distracted, so that when they lower the boom, everybody is already in it. That's why they're fencing the whole world off. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones, right? Because he has his militaries and different militarized groups, to move in on people once they get the system in place. You know? He hath said in his heart, the Most High hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O power, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Yeah, because they're saying that the Lord forgot about us, and it feels that way sometimes. You know? But we know better. It feels like that sometimes. It's that way sometimes. You know, hey, even Yahweh Shai on the cross, he said, my power, why hast thou forsaken me? He felt forsaken at the moment, but he wasn't. And we're not forsaken. But sometimes it feels that way. So, damn, Lord, when you don't open up on these devils, man, just get them. You know? Help us. You know, we all fucked up over here. You know? We're falling apart over here. Please help us. And these devils are steady moving forward. And these devils are evil and wicked. And you know they eat all kind of bullshit. And them devils are in perfect health. God damn. Arise, O Lord, O power, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn the Most High? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Yeah, because they're thinking that the Most High is on their side because the Lord ain't doing nothing to them. It says, thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite. Right, because the Lord sees everything. To requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and evil man. Seek out the wickedness till thou find none. Right, seek out his wickedness till thou find none. So he's totally obliterated. So he's brought down. His system collapses. The kingdom is established. They go into captivity. And afterwards round up and burnt up. Never to be ever an Edomite on a planet ever again. Nobody named Edom, no Edomite, no nation called Edom, all gone. Now, what the Lord is going to do with their spirit, we don't know. I mean, it does make sense that he would bring them among the other nations, but we don't know because we know that the Lord ain't going to destroy the spirit because the Most High, that's part of his spirit. He creates good and evil, remember. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Right, because Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And that's when they're going to be out of there. There's going to be no more stranger in that land once we get back into power. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. And this is what we're waiting for this devil not to oppress anymore. You know? So pretty much, you know, this has been, the world is being fenced in. You know, we read the whole article pretty much, you know, so I don't know. I mean, if brothers want to go back and read it again, maybe, you know, if you want to do lessons on it or, you know, maybe something else. Oh, in this video, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched part of it. Both of these are in the description box, I believe. No, matter of fact, this one is not. So what I'll do right now, before we close out, I'll go to the video, I'll edit the video, I'll put this in the description box, I'll save it, I'll go back to the channel and click on it, and it should be there. Yeah, so it's there. So if you brothers want, you know, you could watch this brother's video. I got to finish watching it. Probably watch it again because I was catching some parts of it, and it kind of gave me the idea for the title for the lesson. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say shalom, the water for tuning in, and the water for you brothers for the precepts. Shalom.